How you doing, everyone? Turkey Buzzard here. Hope you're having a good day. Well, as you can see, I'm at Abernathy Farm, and I came here because I got several requests to do a video on the Place Anywhere mod, so I figured I'd come here to do it because I really haven't done anything in this settlement. Usually when I get a settlement, all I do is give them their beds, their food, their water, and then I totally surround the place with a ton of turrets so I don't have to come back here and defend the place every time they get attacked. That way I can go do my building and not have to worry about the place. But if you look in my aid section here, you'll notice I do not have a Place Anywhere holotape. So I did set down a chemistry station, and I'm going to go into the chemistry station, go down to utility, and create a Place Anywhere holotape. Now this holotape, when you get it and you go in, all these settings are all set by default. You do have to change one setting. Activation method, if you hit A, it'll take you into here, and you need to go to grab and release and hit A. It changes the grab and release to open options menu. Then you can back out and exit, and this should allow you to use or to access the Place Anywhere menu when you're in your workshop mode. Now you'll notice back here I got a bunch of stuff set down. I wanted to do this a little bit ahead of time so I didn't waste your time looking for objects. So what I need to do is go into my workshop mode, and this is going to take a minute because I have a ton of mods. I'm running like 144 mods, so it takes, you know, a minute or so to get into my workshop mode, but that's a small price to pay for all the stuff that I can do in this game. Now you'll notice I got a bunch of stuff set out here. I got a table here, and I want to shrink some of this stuff down and put it on the table, but the table isn't large enough. So how you access the menu in workshop mode is grab and release without moving. So I won't move this table, but I'll hit A and B. So by grabbing and releasing, it opens the options menu. Now I want this table to be larger so I can put some stuff on it. So I'm going to go to scaling and resizing, and right here you have plus 0.5, plus 0.1, minus 0.1, or minus 0.5. So you can blow it up or shrink it down. I'm going to blow this table up 0.5. And then I think I'm going to do it a couple more times at 0.1. Now it's important to know that if you're going to blow objects up or shrink objects, there is a limit there. This table, if I continue blowing it up, it'll blow up to a certain point and then it'll just stop expanding. No matter how many times you hit the button, it just won't expand anymore. If you're shrinking an object, if you shrink it just so much, all of a sudden it'll just disappear. So there are limits to how much you can shrink or expand an object. But now that we have a larger table, let's create some decorations for it. We've got a pool table here. I think I'm going to shrink this down and use it for a decoration. So what I'll do is I'll select and deselect A and B, and you do that without moving the object, and it opens the options menu. Now I'm going to go -5, and then I'm going to -1 3 times. And then I'm going to go through and exit. Now we've got a small pool table. Okay, if I set this on this larger table, okay, once I get it into position, if I hit X, it opens up this menu or whatever that says place anywhere will activate when object is released. Press B to activate. So press B and boom, it's there. Now you'll notice that it looks like it's kind of shimmering a little bit. If you place objects using the place anywhere button, you'll see that happen a lot. They'll sit there and shimmer. So what you do is select and release and then hit cancel. Now it'll stop shimmering. Now there's a problem here. I set this pool table on the edge of this table. However, the game still thinks this pool table is huge. So look at this. I can't walk past this table because I'm bumping into the end of the pool table. If I try to come in from this way, that's it. I'm as close as I can get because the game believes that that pool table is huge. A way to take care of this is to move this pool table to the center of this table. I'm not going to worry too much about getting it exact. But now that I've done that, it's not really bothering that much as far as spacing goes. Now in my last build, the player home that's over by the water tower there, I shrunk one of these down and put it on a table. So that's what I'm going to do here. Select and deselect, go into scaling, -5, -1, -1, -1. Now there we go. We got a little dinky cannon here that we can put on the edge of the table. And when I first did this in my build over there, I set it on the stand and I had it facing outward. But I couldn't walk around it because, see, it thinks I'm bumping into the end of the cannon. So how I took care of that issue was I turned the cannon in the other direction. And now I don't have that problem. So if you are creative in the way you place your objects, then you can get away with doing that, you know. One of these I shrunk down. So I'm going to go -5, -1, -1. I'm going to leave it at that. Now I'm going to put her up here on this table. And you'll notice that sometimes you have problems getting stuff to sit right. But so now she's sitting on the table, and even though I shrunk her down, she still works. So, you know, there's a lot you can do when you're shrinking objects. And let's look at this bear. Now, if I wanted to, I could blow this bear up. And make him huge. Or I can go in, reset the scale. Then I can shrink it down. And I can set him on the stand. So that's a creative way to shrink objects down, and you can anything that you can access, that you can interact with. Like these you can't, because see how the color is different? That is a static object. So you only have one choice with that, and that's to scrap it. So anything that is that odd color can only be scrapped, but anything that is, I have my Pip-Boy light set to orange. So anything that's orange, I can shrink or whatever. I can use any of those options with it. But anything that is a static object, you can't do that with. You can only scrap it. Now, I've got some other stuff here that I wanted to show you. I blew one of these up. Oops, I shrunk it down. Let me reset the scale. There we go. So there you go. Now I have a flat screen TV that is the size of a wall. Now sometimes when you build objects, you'll find that you have problems with object snaps. Like this floor I placed down. Now say I wanted, for some reason, I don't know why you'd want to, but say for instance I wanted to put this on top of that floor. Now it's not going to let me line that up with that floor because it keeps wanting to snap to those sides. So what I do is I grab and release, and then I go down this time to settings, and I go to global collision. Now if I'm going to be doing this with a bunch of objects, then I'll turn it off for the game session. But for now I just want to do it for this one object. So I'll do that and exit. And let's try that again. It shouldn't be an issue. See, I've got, that's why I turned off the global collision. I should have been turning off the general snapping. Okay. The general, see now this time it's not an issue because I turned the snapping off, so it's not snapping to the sides here. So now I'm free to place this, if I wanted to get it in perfect position or whatever. Then there you go. But you also have to remember that once you've placed it, go back into your menu and turn your general snapping back on again. Otherwise, if you forget, then all of a sudden you'll wonder why all your objects are not snapping to each other. Another issue that people have is with objects not wanting to, I don't know, they just don't want to sit right, like this here. Okay, say I decide I want to put it in that, I'm going to shrink it down a little bit, just a little bit. There we go. Now if I want to put this in this cabinet, I might have shrunk that a little. Yeah, I shrunk it a little bit too much, didn't I? See how it's disappearing? So what we'll do is we'll blow it back up just once. That's what'll happen if I might not be able to. Yeah, looks like I'm gonna have to I'll just reset the scale. It might not work. Looks like I messed that one up. So what we'll do is we'll just grab another one. I'm not going to really worry about it. Okay. Now, say I wanted to put this in this cabinet. So it's part of the cabinet. Notice it doesn't want to let me do that. So what I do is grab and release, and this time I'll go down to settings and I'll turn the global collision off just for this one object. Now I can move this object, and what I'll do is I'll place it so it's part of this, but I want to leave the barrel outside so that it looks like it's set up like that. And there we go. This armor bench is part of this cabinet. Another use for the global collision. Now, I have Settlement Objects Expansion Pack, and it allows me to build different types of walls. Now, these walls here, let's get rid of this Nuka World TV. These walls here, you'll notice, are green. They're really neat. They're USS Constitution walls, and I've used them in a lot of my builds. But you'll notice the walls and the window wall are different size. And I don't know why that is, but I want to be able to use these windows. So what I do is I'll go in to my settings, and I'll turn the global collision off. And if I had, you know, say I had this building set up and I had several walls and several window walls, I'll set them all up, and then I'll turn it off for the game session and go along and adjust all my windows. But once it's turned off, then I can access the wall. See, now I also need to go in because it also wants to snap. So I've got to turn both of them off for a moment. See, now it's letting me lower this wall down, and I can get it into the position I want, and there we go. Okay, and how I usually take care of that is I'll put some type of a base around it to hide all that. Okay, for example, we'll go back into our settings, turn our general snapping back on, and the collision is already back on. So in a lot of the mods that I have, they give you like pieces to put around the bottom of a building in snappy house kits. In the roof section, there's trims. See, now I can take these and snap them around here. And look at that. You'd never know that those don't match up. So it's just a way to get around some of the problems. Now, I've also had builds where I do a build, and for one reason or another, one of my settlers' assignment rugs would be slightly outside the boundary of the settlement. So I couldn't get a settler to go there, but I still needed someone. So what I would do is place one of these. Problem is, with that base on there, it doesn't look right. So select and release, and this time I'll go in and turn the global collision off just for this one object. Now if I click on her and lower her down just slightly, X button and B button, there we go. Now we've got a lady standing there, and you don't see a base under her feet. Now with shrinking objects, now I placed the table here. You see I've got a train and a train track. And when I did my Oberlin train station video, I had a lot of comments saying, well, you should shrink those down and make a train set out of them and put them on the shelf in the gift shop. Well, there's a problem with that. Now, if I, well, first let's move this up in the air so I can see what I'm doing with it. Now, if I was to shrink this down, Let's go down -5, -1, -1, -1. Okay, now we've got this small section of track here. And I'm not going to worry too much about placement, but if we put it on that table, and then we take this train here, and we do the same thing, -5, -1, -1, -1. Now I can set this on there. So, and I could shrink it down probably a little more, but the problem is, like I said, if you shrink it down too much, it's going to just disappear, like it did with that armor bench. The problem with shrinking this down is, as I said, the game thinks that's still huge. So, look at this. This is the closest I can get. The train, oh my God. Look at this. The train tracks, I'm bumping into the train tracks right now. Right here. I'm bumping into the side of those tracks. And even the train itself, you know, if you built a model like that, you could not get close enough really to look at it in a gift shop. It would create all kinds of clipping issues. So anyways, that's some of the things that you can do with the Place Anywhere mod. And, you know, position, you can change the position. You can move stuff up, down. If I want to move this cabinet up a little bit, notice when I said move up, it took me out of workshop mode. But if I go over here, see, it kind of messed up. Usually it will allow you to. Right now it's not, because anything I go to now, I'm not going to get an option to move it because I'm outside the boundary. If I'm in my workshop mode, I can do that, but outside the boundary, you can't really do that. So if I come over here and I get into my workshop mode, now I'm inside the boundary, and I'll show you what it does. And it doesn't matter what the object is, any object that I want to place, basically, as long as it's an object that you can interact with. Let's go back here, and we'll just pick an object. Here's a chair. Okay. Now, position. If, say I want to move this up, it takes me out of my workshop mode, but notice when I go to that barber chair, it says nudge. So, and then if you want it to stop doing that, all you got to do is turn around in a circle, and when you look at it again, notice now it's no longer nudge. Now you're back to options again. But going into my workshop mode again here, it'd be nice if this was more, I don't know, a little faster getting into workshop mode, but, you know, such is the price you pay when you decide to use a million mods. But with the position, you can also change the amount. Like, it was just nudging it at step size of 1. Okay? I can change it to 5, or I can change it to 10. Now, say I change it to 10, and I want to move it up. Now, this time, when I nudge it, you'll see it go up quite a bit more. See? So, if you got something that you want to move a little bit more or a little farther than. And, you know, as long as you have that holotape, here's the workbench. Now with this workbench, weapons workbench, I can hit Y for options, choose my position, move that up, and nudge it. So you have options for using that menu in or out of your workshop mode. So, you know, I've covered moving objects. I've covered, you know, scaling, shrinking them up, or shrinking them down, blowing them up. And I've covered your object snaps and your global collision. So that should pretty much, I'm hoping, help you guys out. The main thing to remember is if you're going to shrink objects down for decoration, be a little creative with them. Try to use objects that are not going to cause a big clipping issue, so that boom, you run into, you know, I'm stuck right here at the railroad tracks, even though they're smaller. But hopefully this video has helped out. I hope it has helped out, and hopefully it'll give you guys more ideas for things you can do with your settlements. So I want to thank everybody for watching, and I will see you again next week.